Well, well, well. Andy Farrell has shown his hand, hasn't he? That looks quite like a possible test team. I don't think the team he selected for the Brumbies in Canberra is exactly going to be a test 23 that will run out in Brisbane against Australia a week on Saturday, but not far off. And for the first time, the shape of the 2025 Lions appears to be coming to the fore. There's been a lot of overplaying at times, a lot of attacking rugby and chucking things about. And that's partly because they're warm-up games, partly because of the nature of the opposition and you know, the team wanting to get some cohesion together. But now the test series draws closer, that looks full bore. And if I were Joe Schmidt sitting there having a cup of coffee this morning, I would be thinking, yeah, that's not far off what Australia are going to face. And my thoughts when looking at that, tell me yours. Massive pack. Andy Farrell, I think, has gone for the biggest, most powerful pack that he possibly could. I do still think there could be some changes from the 23. He's gone for tried and tested in the back line with his go-to men, Bundy Aki and Gary Ringrose. They've never let him down, and they're in the midfield. I still think there could be some change there. Interesting bench composition. And I still think there's shirts up for grabs there. But for the most part, I do think that is going to be a test 23. Tell me what you think. Please get stuck in the chat. What were your gut feelings when you saw the team? What do you think when you look at it now? Which positions are locked in and which are up for grabs? Andy Farrell will be telling his squad, I'm sure, everything's up for grabs. But I reckon the players, a lot of them will know in the back of their mind, this isn't far off. I think those are the positions that are being played for this week. Obviously, if anyone has an absolute stinker, and even at the weekend, if someone has an absolute blinder, things could change. But as long as there's nothing in the extremes on either end, then I think that's the team. With the exception of the centres, Huey Pilotu or Aki and Ringrose, that is the way to go, I think. I think the best combination in terms of rugby players would be Tui Pilotu and Ringrose. But it's just the time, the hours spent together and under the belt. I do think there's an argument as well because it would be 10, 12, 13, all from Scotland, and you double down on that cohesion. But then again, you've got Lowe, Ringrose, Aki, and Gibson Park, 4 Irish players in the back line. There's cohesion there as well. So I see arguments both ways. I think the back three is pretty much locked in, unless Blair Kinghorn has an absolute stinker, and then Hugo Keenan has some like all-time performance on Saturday. I think that will be the back three and the halfbacks. Centre, up for grabs. But Ronan O'Gara was saying that he thinks Andy Farrell will go to his tried and tested henchman, Bundy Aki, who has been there for him over the years and has been brilliant as well. We will see. In the pack, a little less clear, isn't it? 1 and 2, yeah, done pretty much with Andrew Porter. I mean, I wouldn't mind if Andrew Porter started. Genge was on the bench, but it's going to be those two in the test. Dan Sheehan, and I think Ronan Kelleher's spot. Luke Cowan-Dickie did no harm to his chances the other day and is still really good. Ronan Kelleher, I mean, you could argue it both ways. Luke Cowan-Dickie's got the relationship with Maro Itoje and Ollie Chesham, but then Ronan Kelleher's got that relationship with Jack Conan and with Joe McCarthy at international and club level, in fact. So kind of picking your jumpers, take your pick. They're both really good. Tyg Furlong. Let me just jump to this. This was the team that I picked based on what I saw at the weekend in the video that I did yesterday when I went through my Lions player ratings from the last game. That was the team I picked, and it's not far off. I picked Morgan instead of Curry, but it's exactly the same pack besides. And I went for Huey Pilotu, but exactly the same backline besides. On the bench, I just nudged Cowan-Dickie ahead of Kelleher, but don't mind either way. And I had Burnin. And jumping back to that, Andy Farrell's got Henry Pollock in. Lisan Al-Gaib, the one that was prophesised from the outer world. Is he going to get himself into a Test 23 squad? I think Marcus Smith and Mac Hansen's an interesting discussion as well. Just on Mac Hansen, just one thought that makes me think he won't necessarily be in a Test 23. In fact, I'm going to say, right, based on what I've seen and read, written, and what Andy Farrell has said about Mac Hansen in the build-up to this game, I'm going to say Mac Hansen won't be in the Test 23. He could be, and he's been brilliant on tour for the most part, But Andy Farrell was saying, "Oh, it's a special day for Mac Hansen back in his home city. It's a really special day," and that was one of the narratives coming out of the Lions camp ahead of this game. That it's a really special occasion for Mac Hansen, which says to me that maybe there's reasons other than test selection that he's in there. I mean, obviously a brilliant player and could get in, but maybe Andy Farrell's kind of leaning into, this is a big moment for Hansen, so he's letting him have his moment. Yes, you can be involved in Canberra. I know what this means to you, but maybe it'll be someone else in the number 23 shirt. And I do think, just on the bench, I do think it's interesting when you look at it. What happens? Let me jump back to that there. What happens if Bundy Aki gets injured? And that was a test 23, or even this weekend? Because as far as I can tell, you're putting a square peg in a round hole. That's the one position. Everything else you can cover, but you cannot cover 12. Bundy Aki goes down, and you're playing, I don't know. I mean, James Lowe's a big unit. He could probably, but not really a 12. Tommy Freeman's played a little bit at 13, not much, but he's not a 12. Gary Ringrose, hardly ever I've seen him get pushed into inside centre. I know a lot of countries play left and right, like Brexon Menoncello, the Argentinians, but that's not the way we tend to do it in the UK and Ireland. Blair Kinghorn, not a 12. So, and Mac Hansen, not a 12. So when I look at that, and Finn Russell, Marcus Smith, no, don't want them 10, 12. Henry Pollock looks the 12-shaped player in that, which makes me think if Andy Farrell goes with this sort of composition for a test match squad, we haven't seen Henry Pollock do that 12 thing. In fact, did he have a couple of minutes at it at some point? I seem to maybe remember. But it does make me think still Ben Earl could be the guy that gets into the squad if Andy Farrell wants to go down this route and risk not having a natural 12. Ben Earl has been used there already by Andy Farrell on this tour. He had a good game at the weekend. Pollock only pulled out at the weekend because he had a twinge on his calf. So maybe Ben Earl could be the guy that's coming into the Test 23 because he can cover 12. The other thing that is glaringly obvious to me when you look at that is you go, well, you take out Marcus Smith, who has not started a game on tour yet. He hasn't started. He's only ever appeared from the bench. He might go through the whole tour not starting a game. If he's going to be in the Test 23, that is. You take Marcus Smith out and you put Owen Farrell in and you have someone who can cover 12. And look, I am a massive fan of Owen Farrell. The guy hasn't played in 9-10 weeks, hasn't played international rugby since the Rugby World Cup. It would be a massive risk. But if Finn Russell is fit and playing well, you don't need to take him off in the 80 minutes. It's not like he's been gassed in matches. Finn Russell, he's the guy that sets other people in motion. He's not going and obviously he works hard defensively and he's running around. Don't get me wrong, he's tired, but I've got every confidence Finn Russell has got 80 minutes in him. Bundy Aki, he's an 80-minute player, and you might only take him off if there's an injury. So it may well be that Marcus Smith doesn't even get on the pitch if the Lions are in a good spot. So if Owen Farrell were there, you've got a natural 10 and a natural 12, lacking match fitness, but it does solve that problem unless he's thinking along the lines of Henry Pollock or Ben Earl to be a centre. What do you think there? Because that's the only potential weakness. And it's a risk. When teams go 6-2 or 7-1 and they take those risks, roll the dice, and more often than not, it comes off. So the chances of Aki getting injured are pretty low. But if he did, what do you do? I think this is very, very close to a Test 23. Tom Curry. Let's talk about Tom Curry. A lot of people will be going, he's very, very lucky, hasn't played well on tour. He actually played well. So what are the other options for 7? Josh van der Fleer on the bench there. Yeah, I could absolutely see him starting the Test at 7. I think Curry's bigger. And it looks like a massively physical pack. And Andy Farrell has been talking about we're not going direct enough. And Maro Itoje described it as tippy-tappy rugby. So this looks like a pack where Andy Farrell, I think he's going to send them out with one clear message: go and grind the Brumbies into paste. Go and smash them. Power. So I think we're going to see a more conventional style of rugby from the Lions in this match. And Tom Curry does fit that. And he is just an elite operator. And he was one of the best back rowers. Probably Curry and van der Fleer were the two best flankers in the Six Nations. Go back to the autumn internationals. Tom Curry was absolutely immense as well. So and Andy Farrell watches these guys in training every day. And there's also an argument that some of these matches, when you look at how poor the Western Force were and the Queensland Reds and the style of play the Lions were playing, judging players purely based only on what we've seen on tour is possibly a mistake because it's unrealistic. And to use that old Eddie Jones phrase, test match animals playing test match style rugby, then you'll see what they're made of. I do think Jack Morgan's got a shout to start 7 or to be on the bench. I think Van der Fleer's got a shout to start 7 and definitely be on the bench. Tom Curry, you could argue, is playing for his spot either on the bench or in the 23 or starting lineup. But I would have no worries about Tom Curry starting a test match because the guy has been there, done it. And look at Tyg Furlong as well. Hasn't played brilliantly on tour. He's there in the number 3 jersey. And if he starts a week on Saturday against Australia, you would have no worries whatsoever. And the one thing I keep coming back to, so few of these players have played in a Lions tour before. So few of these players have played in a proper Lions tour before, the last one being affected by COVID. And the 3 players that have been on a tour before, unaffected by COVID, Maro Itoje and Tyg Furlong, both in here. And the other players that have been on a tour before, Jack Conan, Tom Curry, Bundy Aki, Finn Russell, they're all in as well. Almost every player that has been on a previous Lions tour is in this 23. And I do think we underestimate the value of experience. Yeah, I do. I think we can get too tied up with who played really well against the Western Force. The Western Force, they gave it their all. They're not a great rugby team. You wouldn't expect them to be. They're a provincial team playing in Super Rugby. This is proper. And the Brumbies will be the toughest test so far. They beat the Lions last time. And Andy Farrell, I think, has got a little steal in this team. Massive pack. Big old units in the back line as well. In fact, I talk about how big the pack is. James Lowe, Bundy Aki, Gary Ringrose, Tommy Freeman, Blair Kinghorn. Big. This is a big, big team. And I think we're going to see a very, very different British and Irish Lions performance. I think the tippy-tappy rugby is going to be out the window and it is going to be game time. Cannot wait for Wednesday morning. Tell me what you think. How many of these shirts are up for grabs? Who is going to make their way into this 23 from outside? The ones I would say, Jack Morgan, Finley Bealham still could if the 2 tight head props don't play well. Luke Cowan-Dickey could. Back row. Ben Earl could, for the reasons I mentioned. And I think there's a spot for a back there as well. It could be Sione Tuipulotu and number 23, actually, now I think about it. I think Mac Hansen's there because, in fact, there you go. There you go. I can't believe I didn't think that earlier. You might have been shouting at your screen going, what about this? Yes, there's an issue if Aki goes off. If Tuipulotu is in the 23 shirt, then you've got a natural 12 who can also play 13. And Gary Ringrose has many times been Gary Wingrose. So you can play him there as well. And Marcus Smith in the 22 shirt. Oh, there you go. I've just done it. I've just solved the puzzle. Marcus Smith in the 22 shirt. He can cover 15 in an emergency. Sione Tuipulotu wearing number 23. You've got every single position covered. So I think Mac Hansen out, Tuipulotu in, and that could be the test 23. But a few shirts up for grabs. Oh, man, it's getting really interesting, isn't it? I've just been working it out in real time as I've been chatting to you, and I hope you've appreciated that process. Please get involved in it as well and give me your thoughts, and I'll see you on the next video.